All right, everyone found a seat, right? And everyone can hear me? Perfect. So I would say let's get this evening started. So welcome everyone tonight to the first Women Breakthrough Award at the annual Female Science Talents Fall Gathering, where you have been here. I think most of you have been here all day. So my name is Johanna Sieben. I'm part of the directors team at the Falling Walls Foundation, and I am super happy to be here today to be celebrating women in science. So at the Falling Walls Foundation, 15 years ago, we started the Science Summit, the annual science conference. And the leading question is, what are the next walls to fall in science and society? And I think here tonight, we're really talking about one of the big walls in science and society, which is the gender gap in science and research. So actually this morning I looked up the numbers again, which I'm quite sure you are all very, very well aware of them. But some numbers were almost positively surprising and some were pretty shocking to me. So the positive surprise was, all over in bachelor's and master's program, we are almost at 50% now of people identifying as women. Of course, which is super important, this is not across all subjects. So just if we look at all the subjects, we're at almost 50%. However, it just gets worse after that. So if we look at a career in science, it's only 1 out of 3 people identifying as female. And when it comes to positions in national science academias, it's only 12%. So if we really go into research institutes, it goes down and down and down. And I think when we talk about papers being published, etc., it's a really problematic situation. So I think evenings like that and awards like this are really, really important to give visibility to women in science and to just make women visible of the research you're doing is great and you should all be in positions of power and do the research and get funded for it and all of that. So I'm really happy we're having the opportunity to do that, because I think by being visible, we can also lend a hand to other women and make them visible too. So earlier this year, the idea to the Women Breakthrough Award actually came from our back then managing director, Imke Rajamani. So thank you very much, Imke, for having the idea. And thank you to the Elsevier Foundation for jumping on board and for bringing things to life together with us. And well, that's already everything from my side. Thank you all for being here. Enjoy the evening. And with this, I hand over to Mirit from the Elsevier Foundation.
Thank you, everyone, and it's great to be back here after what I felt was a wonderful day with the talent program, the Female Science Talent Program. The discussions today, the insights, the depth, the breadth were really inspiring, I felt. I would like to start by saying a few words, though, about something that happened earlier today. Things were said about the Israel-Gaza conflict, which I know caused some distress, some hurt with some people here. The perspective was not balanced. There is suffering and loss of life on both sides. And I just wanted to acknowledge that. Falling walls is about breaking down boundaries and building bridges, not walls. And so I hope that's what we can all aspire to do. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate that. So I'm here, as was said, on behalf of Elsevier and the Elsevier Foundation. We were very excited to take part in this evening. And I already spoke a little bit this morning about what we do at Elsevier to improve and promote gender equity. And I won't go through all of this again today, but I would mention that we are trying to use our position in the industry to promote gender equity where we can. And so that includes driving to better gender equity in our editors, reviewers, and conference speakers. It includes data collection so that we can do analytics and raise awareness of the issues that still exist, the countries where it still exists, and the disciplines. And it includes promoting the inclusion of sex and gender dimensions in the actual research and health content that we publish by supporting authors and training them, as well as editors and reviewers, so that they know what to look for when they accept articles. I believe that these awards will lead to more opportunities for women involved, both for the prize winners, but also to those who will come after them. Recognition and celebration of that are very important to raise awareness to the work of different countries and different groups across society. What is truly unique about the Falling Walls Breakthrough Awards is that they focus on 3 areas, so I'll introduce them now. Area number 1 is innovation, where we celebrate how a researcher has addressed a specific gender-related issue in an innovative way. Second area is gender mainstreaming, and this is all about incorporating the sex and gender dimension in the design of a research project, whether it's in medicine, where we should treat men and women differently. Heart disease, for example, has different presentations with men and women, or it could be in engineering, where crash test dummies used to be male dimensions only, and now there's greater awareness to the importance of designing for males and female bodies. And the third category is empowerment. This strives to ensure that underrepresented people have clear voice and role in the research itself. Thank you for the opportunity to be here today, and I am delighted to invite Rana Devjani to present the Innovation Award.
Thank you. So my name is Rana Devjani. I'm a professor of molecular biology and president of the Society for Advancement of Science and Technology in the Arab World. I'm very proud to announce the winners of the first category, which is innovation, as the Female Breakthrough Award. And the award goes to a project called The Power of Black Soldier Flies for Bioconversion in Feed. It was a fascinating title, very, very intriguing. And the wonderful women scientists are Atinuke, Chineme, and Marwa Shumo. Please come to the stage. Congratulations. Congratulations. So we want to know more about this fascinating project. So my question to you is, what is your project about? Could you, in a nutshell, explain to the audience?
Yes. Good evening, everyone. First, I would like to thank the jury members for selecting our project. And I would like to express my happiness that I am co-sharing the prize with my female PhD student. I think women should always support women. It's also a very interesting coincidence that today happens to be the 156th birthday of Marie Curie, the only woman who received the Nobel Award twice in her lifetime. And to answer your question, Professor Rana, we work with the black soldier flies. It's a very unique true fly, and I like to call it the mother of all insects because it has this marvelous ability of bioconverting almost any kind of organic waste and then make cash out of this trash. So we produce, yes, we produce alternative proteins that can be consumed for livestock production, and as well as a biocompost that is of a more economic value than the synthetic and chemically produced or commercially available conventional type of fertilizers. So we are solving several problems or challenges of the 21st century. First is how to feed the growing, ever-growing population. Secondly, how to change the way we consider alternative agricultural production systems. It's expected that more than 60% of the world population is going to move into urban areas. So our farmers are no longer going to live in farming areas, but they will live with us in our cities. And just to emphasize on that, this is no longer just a dream or a project. It's actually happening in reality. Many laws, since we started working, many laws have changed in the European Union, and there have been relaxation of laws, and now we can use the insects and commercialize them and use them and trade them in the markets here.
Wow, that's amazing. So that leads me, are we going to have some of those insects for our dinner tonight? All right, maybe next year. So that leads me to my second question is, what is the impact on local communities where the pilot was conducted, and especially on women?
Yeah, like Marwa already said, I just want to say thank you. You know, sometimes talking about the projects with people and then they glaze over, they don't understand what you're talking about, sometimes can leave you stumped, but just having this recognition, this opportunity is just great. So thank you so much to Falling Walls Foundation and their partners. So the impact on the local community, so the research was done in Tanzania, and we tried, first of all, I partnered with, it's very important to partner with local NGOs or local organizations working in the area because they have more specific knowledge. And by partnering with AMREF, what we noticed was that there is actually hierarchy in waste, believe it or not. And so recycling metals and plastics and papers that are seen as valuable, the men get that privilege. And so the women were left with the opportunity to recycle organic waste. And so just having the black soldier fly as accessible, native to the area, just made it so much easier to give them a source of income. But what we did realize was by partnering with AMREF, who partnered with this local organization called, they're called Sauti ya Jamii, and it actually means voice of the community. They are a very activist group that are very interested in promoting women. And so just when they found out about the opportunity to empower themselves as well as other women, they took the research to a different dimension. And so I think it's very important at this point for me to just say that if we're going into any community or any environment, even if you're native to that environment, if it's just a different locality, it's very important to design your project in such a way that you're able to co-design or co-produce. And that's one strategy that we took with the research. So initially we pre-designed, then we co-designed, and then afterwards we post-designed. And so with that, we're able to put our ideas together, then work with them to incorporate their ideas, and then at the end, we look back and saw the innovations that we all came up with. That's by comparing our design to their design with us, and then we could see so much improvements with the project at the end. And so just one final point, the impact was, in our mind, it was just an opportunity for the women to have a source of livelihood, to help their families. But at the end of the day, because they were an activist group, they saw it as an opportunity to train other women. And so we're not, we co-designed and post-designed, and now the project is theirs, and they are now training other women to be empowered, to use the technology, and let's see what happens with the community afterwards.
I am flabbergasted, honestly, because you have captured everything. The innovation in a social way that is sustainable because it's owned by the people. So this is going to keep on going beyond your lifetimes, and that's just amazing. And this is the prize that was 2 people. And I think that's an example of research cannot happen without a team and helping each other. So you're both amazing. My last question, what are your next steps?
I guess I can go first with that one. So next steps are, initially this project was done with the voice of the community, Sauti ya Jamii, and so we had to transport the waste to their location, which is what you see in the picture up there. But the next steps would be actually to take, instead of transporting the waste to their location, would be to do it in the marketplace, because the Market Women's Association in a lot of the Global South, they're huge, and it will be such an avenue to see comparing impacts. You know, what would happen if we could just source all the waste on site without transporting it? So eliminating, we're trying to minimize inputs, so minimize fuel inputs or whatever the inputs are, and so just have it on site and see with the whole market of women putting their waste together, see how much more we can generate, how much more benefits we could have to the community or to the society. That would be an interesting next step.
Well, we have also one more thing to add. Because I also work with mixed media, I'm also a blogger and an artist, and therefore we have decided also to transfer the project into a documentary together with the Silver Cells Institute, and we pitched like a week ago at the Silver Cells Festival for Science and Media. And at the moment, we're looking for co-productions and filmmakers and storytellers so that we can expand on the idea.
Wow. I mean, it's a pipeline, right? They've covered everything. So you're doing systems change, sustainable development goals, local community, and filmmaking and media. So thank you very much for being such a wonderful, wonderful project. And I encourage you to write your story, because you are our role models for the future generations all over the world. Thank you very, very much. Let's give them a huge round of applause.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, no worries. Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Perfect. One more.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And now, for our second category, I invite our next jurist, Injongi, to present the second category I'm not going to say what it is.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. It's my pleasure to be part of this great event. First, it was amazing to review all the project, so thank you very much for calling us for that. We don't have a lot of time, so I go directly. So the second category is gender mainstreaming. And Sudeshna Das is the person I'm going to call to receive her prize. Yeah. Okay. So before we talk in details, or as much as we can, about your project, that would be very nice for you to tell us a bit about yourself and your journey. How did you arrive in this field?
I did my PhD in artificial intelligence from the Indian Institute of Technology, Kharagpur. And now I'm working as a postdoctoral researcher at Emory University, where I'm working on biomedical informatics with a focus on improving gender equity in healthcare. My first forays into AI would have been during my undergrad, when I just discovered natural language processing. And because I was an avid reader right from my childhood, I found it fascinating that computers could process text. That was mind-blowing for me. And yeah, that's basically how it all started. And now we are here.
Oh, yes, we are. Yes. So the project you won for the award for is AI to identify gender bias in school textbook. Tell us more.
So it may come across as a surprise to some people, but right in 2023, we are teaching children biased text in schools, I was surprised when I figured this out, that this was not a phenomenon that was back when my mother was in school, but continuing right now in 2023, as I said. And I really wanted to address this. And for this, we built an AI-based framework, which is able to identify gender bias in school textbooks automatically. The main issue with addressing gender bias in school textbooks is that gender bias does not take precedence over many other factors, such as fact checking and grammatical checking and all of that a school textbook is involved with. So even if gender bias comes across as a possibility in the minds of people, it's usually put aside, neglected. So to address this, a scalable solution would be to automate the process, which is what we did. And we were able to build a framework that identifies gender bias in textbooks with an accuracy of 80%.
Wonderful. So, yes. And what are the other the striking findings that you already have? I think, from what I remember, the research is in progress. But
yes. So the first interesting thing which we found was that non-binary gender identities were completely excluded from the textbooks we looked at. We looked at textbooks from 4 countries, and we did not find any representation of any non-binary gender identity anywhere. So the complete erasure of non-binary gender identities is something we realized. Also, so far, all the research that has been done in identifying gender bias in school textbooks has assumed that gender bias is only against women, which is a large part of it. Gender bias is mostly against women, but gender bias harms all genders. So this is something we tried to incorporate in our research as well. And we found that although gender bias against women was more prevalent, there were instances where gender bias was exhibited against men as well. So this was another interesting finding that we came across. And the third thing, which was a more technical part of it, is that gender bias, thankfully, forms a very small part of the text that we are looking at. So dealing with class imbalance is something we were able to handle by using memory-augmented neural networks.
Thank you. And we're coming to the end of this. So what are your next steps? Tell us more.
So right now, I am looking at a multimodal approach to identify gender bias in textbooks, because so far we have only looked at text, but gender bias is present in imagery and diagrams and figures and such. So we want to take a more multimodal approach to do this, as well as because of the complete erasure of non-binary gender identities, we are looking at healthcare data, because while identifying gender bias in education is very important, it can be very harmful for young children. Having gender bias in healthcare can be life-threatening. So this is something that I plan to work on during my postdoc now.
Congratulations. So I think it's the time to get your
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. So Sudeshna Das, congratulations again. I realized that I started talking to you all without introducing myself. I'm sorry about that. So my name is Njonge Karango. I'm working for the Institute of Creative Repair. That is an African-based research and creative institute looking at how restitutions and access to cultural heritage is a part of care. And enough about me. I'm introducing Ellen Chen for the next prize. Bye.
Thank you so much, Njonge. A tough act to follow after these wonderful interviews and these amazing winners, but I have an amazing winner, the winner for empowerment. And I would like to invite Dr. Simangele Shakwane up here with me to tell you all about her amazing work and why we're here today. So welcome, Simangele.
Thank you.
So and I have to say that one of the most exciting things about the award process was working with the jurors and learning all about your amazing projects, discussing with each other, learning from each other. Now, your project, I remember reading about it and seeing these terms like decolonizing nursing, empowering nurse educators, and also degendering intimate care. And I was like, wow, this just blows my mind. And we would love to hear more about what you are doing. I see you have wonderful pictures up here. Simangele, tell us about your research and tell us about what we're seeing up there.
Okay, thank you very much. My research started when I was doing my master's. I'm a nurse. So I think all of us, we have been in the hospital. And when we get to the hospital, the first thing we say, we touch you. And when you look at the health sciences textbook, there's nothing about touch. Nobody teach a nurse how to touch. We just go and touch somebody. So when I was doing my master's, there was a question of gender issues in nursing profession. But the recommendation was to teach touch. How do we teach somebody how to touch? If I will say now in this room, let us all undress, I wonder how will we feel? Because to be naked, you need to trust somebody. So what I'm doing now at the postdoctoral level, I'm looking at how can we teach somebody to touch in such a way that I respect who you are, and at the same time, I respect myself? If we look at nursing, 95% in South Africa are females. Even though it's female-dominated, but there is still that feeling of minority, because there's a screen, there's a patient, especially one of the results, there's a patient, a male patient in a surgical ward, and there is a young female coming to touch. She has never seen a naked body, and has never seen a man. And the man has an erection, and the student does not know what to do. So what we are doing here in this project, I use the humanistic silicone masks. So when we teach in the laboratory, in the skills laboratory, so an educator or one of the students, if we're talking about a male patient, then there's a male patient, a mask there. Then a human being will wear this mask. After wearing the mask, will become a patient. Then a student will be able to touch a real person, and there will be that conversation. Then after that, there will be a debriefing, because this project, you get into somebody's intimate space, and then there's something that happens to an individual. So you are crossing boundaries, and then you are crossing something that will lead to stress and mental health. So yeah, that's what we are doing in the project.
Thank you so much. And what I also understood from your research is that it's a kind of creating also a shared language and a shared system between the nurse educators, the nursing students, and the patients.
Yes.
And I'd love you to share a bit more about that. Also because, as I understood from your research, which is just fascinating, it was also about trying to find ways to diffuse conflict.
Yes. So what happened, we teach in English. In our textbooks is in English. So students in South Africa, we have about 12 languages. And then the patient is from a different cultural background, different languages. Then the student does not know the term in that particular language. And then you have that conflict now to say, how do I say, I'm going to touch you? And then how will this person accept my touch? So that is the first thing where we are looking at how do we decolonize the hands? And how do we decolonize the language? Because language is verbal and non-verbal. So when we come there, we need to be free. The student must be free and say, I'm entering a war zone, a war between the body. This is a different person, I'm different, but we're going to coexist peacefully during this experience. And we need to know that there's gender-based violence, and especially in the nurses. Most nurses have been sexually abused in the hospitals. They do not report it because it's female-dominated. It's okay. It becomes an okay norm to say, yes, because it's a caring profession, so you need to be okay with it because it's your job to care. So what you are saying here, sexual harassment is a no area. The students need to know when they are sexually harassed, and they need to be able to report. So through this project, we're opening a communication space to say, this is not acceptable. And we're presently developing technology-enhanced touch. Because before you teach touch, you need to teach culture. A person must know who they are, and then they must also know who are the people that they're going to connect with. Then from there, there's that interconnectedness. So it begins there, because we cannot teach what I do not understand or do not appreciate. Yes.
So Simangele, as I understood it, this is now already being rolled out across 4 different nursing institutions, educational institutions. Yeah. And of course, South Africa being such a culturally diverse country, are you seeing differences? Are you seeing it impact communities in these 4 institutions differently?
Yes, there are 4 provinces that I'm using. One is based on isiSwati. Then when you get there, you need to tune yourself into that cultural background, and you need to know what is meant by touch. And the nurse educators in that, they have a different language. So you need to tune yourself into, that is why the assistant, the people that they are assisting the project, they are within those communities because they know the language, they know the culture. So when I come to prepare them, they are telling me to say, we don't touch this way. We touch halfway. Then from there, we ask, how do we go down? Then they will tell you to say, in a respectful way, if you are going to touch somebody, this is how you undress. And then so we incorporate this into procedures. And then in nursing education, as I indicated, there's no procedures on touch. So this is what we're trying to say. Let us have it in nursing education as producers and have books that are going to talk about touch. And then to touch on that, even though men are a minority, they are also abused. This is one of the findings. Say, men, they are a minority in nursing profession, but when they have to provide intimate care, the touch aspect, they get sexual harassed too. But with them, it's easier because they are able to, to delegate. They are able to call a female nurse to say, come, take over, and then they walk away. Whereas with a female nurse, we cannot walk away. We say, this is my responsibility, this is my duty, the patient must be clean. So that is the difference when it comes to this touch and intimate care issue.
Thank you so much, and I just want to give a little warning because it's so interesting. You don't want it to stop, but we're coming to the last moment, the last question. What's next? What are the next steps? I mean, you're working on this is your postdoctoral research. You've got 4 institutions going. Where do you go from here?
Okay, we have just completed our implementation phase and we're analyzing the data. And then we're busy developing the teaching objects. It's because we want it to be online and then in the skills lab. So that is important because once they come to skills lab, they must come with the information. So that is what we are busy doing. And then we're doing it in 11 languages. So that the cultural impact, and then the second part, we are busy with the proposal for a book on intimate care and how to touch. And then we will try to also translate it into different languages so that people will be able to understand what is meant. And important is also to use the community, the traditional, because we want to decolonize, you need to also have the traditional healers and all in the aspect so that they can provide information. And with the transgender, it's one of the parts. It was not part of the project, but by chance there was a patient who was a transgender who was admitted, and then during interview, it became an objective. Because now to say, even though they've transitioned, at the same time, there's a problem to say, we are not ready in the system because in their identity book, they are a male or a female, but their transition, they are no longer, they are either transgender male or transgender female. So that is what we are with the future.
Thank you so much for sharing this. And I think what's so inspiring to me is that you have created a whole new language and made something that's been quite visible. So I just want to thank you and congratulate you. And this is really the moment suprême. Thank you.
Oh. Oh. Thank you.
And really, this is the moment where we want to invite all of our winners up, but also I want to just take a moment to put Julia Milbrandt in the spotlight because she has done so much for the Breakthrough Awards, and we've been meeting every few weeks for the last few months, shaping and discussing, and thank you, Julia, for such a wonderful job.